Hi, welcome back to my YouTube page. I haven't been on in a while, but it's great to see you guys. And I'm back with something very interesting. If you haven't noticed, I put up 2 videos for what I'm going to be talking about today, and I'm glad to be back. I missed you guys. I took a little time off, but I'm back, and I'm ready to get back to what I know I need to do. Okay, so hold on one second. So I'm going to show you. I bought a book. It's a very important book, and I thought of me buying this book so that we could understand why we have to say what we say. And I hope it's imperative to you guys. It's important to you guys. Hope you can take something out of why we say what we say. So here it is. One second. This is something. It is called The Alice's and the Time Machine. Why do we have to say Black Lives Matter? By DeVale Ellis. So we're going to get into this right quick because I'm not going to be long. And this book is dedicated to his children and his family. So here's a picture of them. It's really neat. I love it. And most people know that he is a football player, and this is his family, his wife and children. Okay, hold on one second. And I'm going to read for you guys. I'm going to read to you guys as if I was in Michelle Obama's reading club that day when she had all these kids at the White House. Here we go. It was a perfect Sunday afternoon in Brooklyn at the Ellis' home. 9-year-old Jackson and his father, DeVale, were watching the basketball game in the living room when Jackson curiously asked, "Yo, Pops, why do we have to say Black Lives Matter? Doesn't everyone know that?" So here they are. And here they are in the living room. And then he says, you would think so, said DeVale, but it isn't racist to only say Black Lives Matter, Jackson asked. Isn't it racist to only say Black Lives Matter, Jackson asked. One second. DeVale turned off the television and turned to Jackson. Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that only Black Lives matter. It was time for reinforcement, so DeVale called Kadeen. Kay! Look at Jackson. He's covering his ears because he's so loud. Oh, my goodness. Here's Kay and the boys. And she says, Kadeen walked into the living room with 3-year-old Cass on her hip and 4-year-old Kyra on her tail. "Why are you screaming as if there was a fire, DeVale?" asked Kadeen. "Because I am dealing with something more dangerous than a fire," said DeVale. "All right, everybody head to Jackson's room. It's time for a history lesson." So here we're going to figure out why we have to say Black Lives Matter. So we're going to his room or whatever, and we're going back. Now we are in Jackson's bedroom. "History is boring," said Jackson. "I'm too young for history lessons," said Cairo, shaking his head. "Well," said Kadeen, "how do you expect to know where you're going if you don't know how you got there?" That's Kadeen that said that. And that's so true. How do you know where you're going if you don't know how you got there? That's very true. "That's right. And history is never boring when you're learning the truth," said DeVale excitingly. Look at him. He looks like he doesn't want to be bothered with this. They don't want to be bothered with this. Let's keep going. Here are the pictures on the wall. DeVale ran to Jackson's room in excitement. There are more pictures on the wall. I can't believe we're missing the game for a history lesson, Jackson said. You and your big mouth, Jackson, said Cairo. He said this one. He said, you and your big mouth, with your big mouth. Now they're all on the bed. DeVale was super excited because he knew that the boys had no clue what was behind the closet doors. As DeVale opened the closet doors, a huge bright light followed by a gust of wind As DeVale opened the closet door, a huge bright light followed by a gust of wind finally got everyone's attention. So look at the wind. It's like snow almost. Jackson jumped up. What the? Kadeen cut him off before he could think of finishing his sentence. Watch your mouth, boy. Cairo jumped in. Is that a time machine? Said DeVale. Wow. The inside of the closet that holds Jackson's clothes and sneakers now looks like a spaceship. Kadeen buckled Cass in and made her way to the cockpit. Wow, this is interesting. This is a good book. This time machine is only accessible with parental guidance. Buckle up. It's time for an adventure, said Kadeen. Look at them. They're in space. Look at all this. So cool. Kadeen typed in the year 1619 as DeVale raised his hand high and yelled, countdown! We all say truth on 1. The family count down together. 3, 2, 1. Truth! As Kadeen smashed the big red button. Smashed the big red button right over there. Mm-hmm. With warp speed, the family zoomed to a different time dimension where 1619 was the present day. So in the spaceship. Let's see. The spaceship and the moon and the orbits and all that. Slavery. In August of 1619, a ship settled on the shore of Fort Monroe in Hampton, Virginia. An English nobleman by the name of Robert Rich unloaded approximately 20 Africans captive of the White Lion ship. Here he is. He's a mean one. Here's the slave ship, and here's 20 Africans. This sparked a huge turning point in chattel slavery in America. Chattel slavery was legal under the law and for enslaved Africans. Chattel slavery was legal under the law and allowed for enslaved Africans to be bought and sold as property for free labor. Look at them. They're picking the cotton. You can tell he's got his whip. He's just mean and evil. Okay, let's keep going. And here's a lot. We got lots of it here. Here's some war. This looks like a page of war. Civil War. From 1861 to 1865, the northern states, known as the Union, and the southern states, known as the Confederates, fought over slavery and state rights. The 7 Confederate states, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas, wanted to continue to own slaves and expand slavery in the West following the election of President Abraham Lincoln. The Confederacy declared war with the hopes of starting their own country, but ultimately lost the Union lost to the Union. Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which symbolized freedom of enslaved Africans. Congress formally passed the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery 2.5 years later in 1865. The Union Army entered Texas on June 19, 1865, to mark the end of Civil War and enforce the abolishment of slavery. Today, this day is known as Juneteenth. Yes, it is. So slavery was over. In other words, the Vagrancy Act, although formerly enslaved Africans were now free, a law was put in place in Virginia, then followed throughout the Confederate States, that forced any person who appeared to be unemployed or homeless to work in plantation. This law directly targeted new freed blacks looking to rebuild their lives after the war in 1866. The Vagrancy Act remained a law until 1904. And if you see the word free here, that really means they're not really free. They just said they were free, but they really weren't free. So if they got caught without having any jobs or homeless, they were going back to being slaves. So that when you see a word in quotations, it really doesn't mean that they're free or whatever the word is saying. Okay, back to you. So here are the slaves, here are the books and the readings and all of that. Black codes, although the Confederate South lost the Civil War, its leaders waged a political war on the freedom of black people. In the late 1865 into 1866, southern states like Mississippi and South Carolina began enforcing laws which made it mandatory for blacks to work under labor contracts and carry written documentation. Newly freed southern blacks were at risk of being arrested and getting into forced labor again. They were not allowed to vote, carry weapons for protection, gather in groups for worship, or learn how to read or write. Although northern and western states did not enforce the Act laws, many discouraged free blacks from residing there. So they're just doing everything. They're doing everything and anything to keep them as slaves. Okay, I'm going back to the next page. This is page. Okay. Jim Crow. During the Reconstruction era, the former Confederate states created laws that demanded separate public spaces based on race. These spaces included restrooms, restaurants, schools, libraries, and public transportation. In 1896, the U.S. Supreme Court used the Plessy versus Ferguson case to uphold the separate but equal doctrine after the Reconstruction era. The facilities for blacks were rarely equal, as the majority were either underfunded, inhumane, or non-existent. In fact, many public places in the South refused to create separate accommodations for blacks, or refused them access altogether. Racial segregation by Jim Crow laws were considered constitutional until they were overruled by the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Now you see here they got colored only on this side and the whites for that side. So it's a lot of stuff. This is why we have to say Black Lives Matter. Look at this. Doesn't this look scary? Ku Klux Klan. In the mid-1860s, the Ku Klux Klan formed to prevent black people from gaining political power and sought to suppress their rights. The group upheld white supremacy by using voter intimidation and targeting violence towards blacks. known as African Americans. The secret organization was composed of Southern white men that often wore white robes, face masks, and burned crosses to invoke intimidation. It's sad. It's really sad. Convict leasing. So they do this, and we go to convict leasing. Convict leasing, many Southern leaders in governments and in business wanted to find a new way to make money. After chattel slavery ended in 1865. As slavery was now illegal, several states used the Vagrancy Act and other black codes to imprison free black people, forcing them to work for free as prisoners in the southern states. Convict leasing existed in America under different names until it was abolished on December 12, 1941. Here are the boys. So you can't get them as slavery, so slaves, you're going to get them as convicts. Tulsa Race Massacre. Although many free black people struggled to rebuild their lives after slavery, some got their footing. O.W. Gurley, a black landowner, educator, and entrepreneur, built a Greenwood business district known as Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He supported other black entrepreneurs to develop Black Wall Street over 15 years as a beautiful community filled with homes, businesses, and schools. On Memorial Day weekend in 1921, Black Wall Street experienced an event that it would never recover from. It all started when Sarah Page, a white woman operating an elevator, screamed after Dick Rowland, a young black man, entered the elevator. Rumors and accusations of sexual assault escalated during the police investigation. And outraged, armed mob of white people rioted Black Wall Street. As many as 300 black people died and over 800 were injured, and 35 city blocks were burned to the ground. Sadly, this event has been left out of many American history books. And if you notice, when they're trying to take down something that black people have built, they're going to use a white woman to get it, just like they did with Emmett Till. White woman said that he whistled at her or he winked at her or whatever, and he was killed. So if you notice here in America, they're going to use a white woman, which we call today Karens, to bring down our communities. So here it all is, all in Oklahoma. We want tenants. We want white tenants in our white communities. Isn't that something? Redlining. In 1934, the Great Depression, the National Housing Act was enacted to address housing stability. The Federal Housing Administration was to establish, launch, a mortgage insurance program, which consequently led to further segregation and gaps in fair opportunity between white and black communities. The new housing market provided more housing and neighborhood improvements for white, middle-class, and lower middle-class families, while pushing black families in urban housing projects. Additionally, housing credits for mortgages in black neighborhoods was often denied. Special benefits were extended to real estate developers who were building neighborhoods for white Americans with the understanding that no homes could be sold to black people. This promoted segregation and contributed to the wealth gap seen today. Speaking of redlining, here in my city, if you go past Truth, going westbound, you won't find too many homes, too many neighborhoods without banks. Here on my end, you'll find no banks, but more liquor stores. And on going past Truth westbound, you find more banks and agencies and different departments and all of that. So it still exists today. But eventually I'll be out of here. I'll have my own home one day. This is my home that I own, but one day I'll be owning another home. Buying a home where I choose to be. Okay, so let's continue. So, here we are with the dogs and all of this stuff. Police brutality. In 1954, during civil rights movements, black Americans began to experience extremely physical violence at the hands of local police. These attacks were photographed and caught on camera while protesters demonstrated nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience. Local governments often militarized their police force against non-violent blacks protesters using water hose, dogs, batons, and exercised the force that resulted in physical assaults and numerous arrests and deaths. Okay, so we have that, police brutality. Now, what does this look like? The Black Panther Party. I always wanted to be a Black Panther. Okay, the Black Panther Party. After decades of using civil disobedience and nonviolent protests to combat racial injustice and police brutality, the Black Panther Party for self-defense was created by college students Bobby Seale and Huey Newton in 1966. The core purpose of this group was to empower and protect black neighborhoods against police brutality. In response to the Black Panther Party, the U.S. FBI Director J. Edward Hoover led and developed a program called COINTELPRO to discredit and criminalize the party. COINTELPRO was a counterintelligence program responsible for causing major internal conflicts within the party and the assassination of many influential party leaders like Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. So they did everything to stop us. They're doing about everything to stop us. We're still in the time machine. We're almost out the time machine. So after they couldn't get us with the Black Panther Party, they tried to hit us with the war on drugs. In 1971, just a few years after the end of segregation and gaining the right to vote, the civil rights movement, President Richard Nixon announced the war on drugs. This national initiative used both federal and local enforcement to target black Americans and leaders by disrupting and over-policing the communities. In 1986, Congress passed the Anti-Drug Abuse, providing funds for more militarized police force in black communities and harsher sentences for drug-related crimes. This created soaring arrests for black people. Okay, so then this goes back to mass incarceration. So they hit us with mass incarceration after they couldn't free us, after we were free from slavery, but they needed something to make money, so they started mass incarceration after they freed us, and now here we are back to mass incarceration. Mass incarceration, although slavery ended 131 years earlier and segregation ended 29 years prior, many black people struggled to thrive after the civil rights movement because of the redlining, police brutality, and federal legislation that continued to target and terrorize black communities. In 1994, the largest crime bill in the history of the United States was passed, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. This bill created a surge in the number of arrests of black men and women. They were given harsher sentences while private companies began profiting from their prison industrial complex. So, yeah. It's a blessing to be black, but it's hard being black. So here we are today. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Defund the police. Black Lives Matter. In July 2013, the Black Lives Matter was created by Alicia Garza, Opal Somiti, and Patrice Cullors after the state of Florida failed to convict the murder of unarmed 17-year-old black boy Trayvon Martin using the state's stand your ground law. I love how they didn't add the murderer's name in this book. I love that. I'm so glad they didn't do that. The Black Lives Matter movement mobilizes where youth meets most on social media and is a declaration to revolt against police brutality and corrupt criminal justice system that profiles, targets, profits off of, and oftentimes kills black Americans without consequences. So that was created. Hey, baby, said Kadeen. I think it's time to get back. Okay, Ellis, it's time to go back, said the Val. The family put on their glasses and the Val hit the red button. A huge white flash appeared and the Ellises were instantly home. Okay, oh man. They went back home in the room. Now I'm back in Jackson room after a journey that covered over 400 years. The Val said, so you see why we say Black Lives Matter? To remind America that they forgot about us when they said with liberty and justice for all, which is true. They did forget about us. So all we're asking for is equality, right, Pops? Asked Jackson. Yeah, bro. It's crazy that we still have to ask for it, said the Val. Okay. Jackson runs to open his closet door. Hey, where you going? Asked Kadeen. The history lesson is over. You don't want to finish watching the game with your dad? Are you kidding me? We need change, and I can't change anything while watching the game. We need action, exclaimed Jackson. Yeah, said Cairo. Yeah, said Cass, speaking for the first time. Jackson pushed his mom and dad out of the room and closed the door. Do you think I share too much? The Val asked Kadeen. Not at all. If they're anything like you, they'll work together to change the world for the better, said Kadeen. As she gave the Val a warm hug. Oh. Hold on one second. We're going to change the world. We got work to do, gentlemen, said Jackson. Yeah, said Cairo and Cass in unison. Black lives matter because all people are created equal, and that's so true. So here is a real picture. I'm not going to read all of this. If you want to buy the book is on Amazon. Amazon, yes. So here they are, the real people of the creators of this book. And it tells about his life and all of that, Here, all of it. It tells about his life. And more other pictures about, more of the books where you can buy books about black people. So, this is it. Okay, so we just read Why Do We Have to Say Black Lives Matter? And I thought this book was so informative. It was a good read. It tells about everything they're not teaching us in the history books, because most of those books are white-owned and white authors, But it's so important to know why you matter, because if you don't know where you're going, how do you know where you're going to get to? If you don't know where you come from, how do you know where you're going? So I'm so glad I purchased this book. I've actually bought 2 of these books. And you all should go out and get them as well. Okay, until the next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And enjoy this video. Hope you're enjoying your day. And share this video, And if you got time, go out and get the book. It's called Yeah, okay, so bye. See you next time.